Good to have you with us today. The meeting between Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has started. The diplomats are bidding to finally end the impasse over the brutal 5-year war in Syria. Let's have a closer look now at why this meeting is considered so important. First, a breakthrough in the Syria peace process is believed to be close, with Kerry noting earlier this week that the talks are nearing the end. The United Nations also wants to introduce a 48-hour humanitarian ceasefire every week to bring aid to the embattled city of Aleppo. And the UN hopes to relaunch the political transition in the country. Here are some of the latest pictures from the meeting.
Thanks, everybody.
Can you tell us what's the primary holdup to having a nationwide ceasefire?
What's the primary
What's the primary impediment to having a nationwide ceasefire now?
I don't want to spoil the atmosphere of the negotiations.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And in Geneva at the meeting, RT's Emily Sue following the talks.
Two sides are expected to bring a long list of clinching arguments to the table. First on the list would be the hotspot of Aleppo, which has seen some of the worst bloodshed since the civil war broke out in Syria. U.S. Secretary of State Kerry will likely slam Russian airstrikes in Aleppo for saying that they are only worsening the already very severe humanitarian crisis there. Sergei Lavrov will counter that argument by saying that actually Russia is at the forefront of maintaining aid corridors in Aleppo. In fact, Russia has already agreed to the 48 humanitarian pause proposed by the UN earlier this month, while the U.S. has not yet agreed to that yet. The second topic on the list will be the strategic town of Manbij, which the U.S.-backed Kurdish forces has seized back from ISIS control earlier this month. Sergei Lavrov will likely initiate the debate on this one by saying that the U.S.-led coalition airstrikes there has led to simply too many civilian deaths. The final topic for discussion has only emerged this week, which is Turkey's ground offensive in Syria, targeting both ISIS and Kurdish forces. On Wednesday, Turkish-backed rebels managed to take back the border town of Jarablus from ISIS control. On Thursday, we learned that the Turkish army has fired artillery fire at Kurdish forces at the south of Jarablus after the Kurdish fighters refused to withdraw. Here's a clip to explain exactly who is saying what on this issue.
Strongly support what the Turkish military has organized and done. We've been flying air cover for them. They must move back across the river. They cannot, will not, and under no circumstances get American support if they do not keep that commitment.
So as you can see, very high expectations from this meeting in Geneva today, but we'll have to wait and see whether U.S. and Russia can reach an agreement on all these sticking points on Syria.
Meantime, Russia's permanent representative to the United Nations, Vitaly Churkin, has called on the international community not to draw, quote, hasty conclusions on the use of chemical weapons in Syria. The comments come as a special group set up by the UN to investigate chemical attacks says it's identified the perpetrators in 3 cases. Experts from Russia and the US found that from 2014 to last year, 2 chemical attacks were carried out by Damascus, with one attributed to Islamic State terrorists. Meanwhile, the Commission has so far failed to ID the perpetrators of a further 6 attacks which are still under investigation. Churkin said the report was notable as it also blamed ISIL for the use of prohibited weapons, whereas, quote, usually all blame gets assigned to the Syrian government. And since 2015, the country has been hit by several chemical attacks, the most recent targeting the city of Aleppo. And that's where RT's Lizzie Phelan now reports from.
Now, it seems like the United States is insisting on pinning all of the blame for alleged chemical attacks on Damascus. However, here in western Aleppo, which is under government control, earlier this month in the old city, there was a report of a chemical attack which 6 victims suffered from. I'm standing now outside the University Hospital in Aleppo, and a couple of days ago we spoke to an autopsy doctor who was looking at that case, and he said their symptoms look more like symptoms which victims of mustard gas suffer. Mustard gas is a far more toxic gas than chlorine gas. And now, on top of these reports of chemical attacks, the death toll in Aleppo from other forms of attacks, from mortars, from gas jars, or the infamous hell cannons and snipers, is rising in Aleppo. That same doctor said that this August has been the deadliest month in Aleppo since August 2012.
In March, locals from Kurdish-held areas in Aleppo said they had been hit by a chemical substance which they claim came from rebel-held territory. Later in April, there was another attack. That time, Jaish al-Islam admitted they were using chemical weapons. Interestingly enough, that group is called moderate opposition by Western powers. We asked former CIA and State Department official Larry Johnson about the use of chemical weapons in Syria.
The Syrian government had a binary chemical weapon, and a binary weapon means you have to mix 2 separate components together in order to create the lethal agent. Those weapons were collected and disposed of with the assistance of Russia. So those weapons have been taken off the battlefield. What the West does not want to acknowledge is the fact that we have enabled, and in some cases directly supported, groups in Syria that have carried out these chemical, they've used chlorine and other chemicals, mustard gas, as a pretext to put the onus of this on the government of Bashar al-Assad. But in fact, the real culprits here, the ones that represent the danger, and the intelligence community knows this, is the rebels.